almost 1 year since President Obama took office. How would you characterize his performance thus far? Do you consider his first year a success or failure?
Well, I think Obama's first year has to be rated against the fact that he came in with just facing monumental problems on a whole host of fronts, the economy and the foreign policy issues, principally the economy, of course. So in some respects, he's made some progress. The economy didn't collapse as people had expected, but it's very hard to argue counterfactual political arguments. And on the other hand, he has, I think, in many ways followed along with the Bush administration's policies in foreign policy. So I think you'd have to say that there is some change afoot in Washington, but it's not terribly visible to the American public yet.
Understood. Do you think President Obama has lived up to the expectations that he came in with of being the change candidate?
No, I don't think that Obama has lived up to the expectations, in part because those expectations were set monumentally high, in part because of his own doing. I mean, I think some of this is self-inflicted wounds, but clearly not a lot of change has come to Washington in the bipartisan spirit, and of course that's a two-way street, and I think to some extent the Republicans have made a political calculation that they need to oppose Obama and try to weaken him politically, and at the same time that's forced Obama to become a lot less engaged with the Republicans and reaching out to them. So if the public expected huge changes coming out of Washington as a result of his election, I think they're fairly disappointed.
So looking ahead to this year and maybe even beyond into 2012, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing President Obama?
Well, I think in a narrow sense, the biggest challenge is still the economy. And as we look toward the 2010-2012 elections, a great deal is going to be determined by how well the economy is doing when we get into maybe 3 or 4 months before those elections. So it's a bit too early to tell. And by the same token, I think that President Obama has become in a way eclipsed by the policy fights in Washington. And so the soaring, inspirational rhetoric that we heard during the 2008 campaign, I think to a great deal of extent has gotten bogged down in the details of policy making here in Washington. And so I think that's something of a disappointment to the public as well.
Last question, based on the current political climate and the number of retirement announcements made by several Democrats in Congress, many of them prominent, what are your thoughts on, the Democrats' chances in November?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think elections are complex, and certainly one of the factors that makes a great deal of a difference in the choice that goes to voters is the quality of the candidates that are running. So several Democrats announcing that they're not going to run is an indication that many in the political party feel that this is a year in which Republicans are going to do pretty well. So on the one hand, you get Republicans saying this is a good year to run, and you get Democrats who are either incumbents or possible challengers, but say somebody who wants to move up from state senate to congressional, deciding, well, I'm going to wait for another 2 years. So the quality of candidates, I think, is running highly in favor of the Republicans. Then on the other hand, in terms of public opinion, neither party is doing particularly well. While the Republicans have made a kind of habit of saying no to Obama, I don't think that's playing particularly well for them. On the Democratic side, they really have to show that the economy and health care has some benefits to the public, which so far the public doesn't see.